back in at probably 7 or later. Let me, I'll call you tomorrow then. So we're live.
Good afternoon and welcome to the April 10, 2024 special meeting of the Gates County Board of Commissioners. I am Dr. Al Theoretic, the 2024 chair of the board. I'm joined this afternoon by Commissioner Jonathan Craddock, Vice Chair, Commissioner Linda Hoffler, Commissioner Emily Truman is excused, County Manager Scott Sauer, County Attorney Pitt Godwin, Clerk to the Board Julissa Chestnut is also absent, and Commissioner Brian Roundtree will be joining us later. At this time, I'm going to ask Commissioner Linda Hoffler for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Please stand.
Yes, please stand. Our Heavenly Father, as we come today to do business for the county, I hope you will grant each of us wisdom and discernment as we try to make the best decisions possible for all the citizens of the county. Thank you for all of the blessings you have bestowed on us individually and collectively. Help us look forward to a brighter future for all, and help us remember your commandments to be kind and be a good neighbor to all of our citizens. All these things we ask in thy name and for thy sake. Amen.
Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You have your agenda in front of you. I need a motion to amend the agenda so we move the closed session NCGS 143.318.11 personnel for the first item of business.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're going into closed session. There will not be any votes when we come out of closed session. I need a motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're out of closed session. Mr. Sauer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had asked Dr. Riddick last week to talk about having a special session because your meeting on the 17th is looking like a very busy and important business meeting. And given the magnitude of the funding applications we have in the cycle so that you can spend the $10 million appropriation from the state, we just felt it would be prudent to give you an advance look at all the materials that will be in your agenda. We're going to have some of those materials put up on the screen so our audience at home can view these projects as we report on those. But next week, of course, at 5:30, we've got the Board of E&R. Then in the 7 o'clock session, you're going to hear from the revaluation team, Gary Piner's folks. You're going to hear from the president of COA about his budget. You'll hear from the Board of Education about their budget. But the lion's share of the voting for the board to consider Wednesday night is going to be Mr. Arnold's applications that he has that we'll review with Green Engineering. So with that, we will ask our friends from Green Engineering to join us. We have Mr. Leo Green and Mr. Rodney Tart. You have a notebook at your desk, and they will be walking us through those various tabs.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, members of the board, staff, and other guests that's here this evening. Let me start off by saying, Madam Chairman, members of the board, that this is a very historic meeting for Gates County. You're looking at an infusion of grant money from the state of North Carolina in excess of $12 million. And what a blessing and what an opportunity to be able to improve, upgrade, expand your infrastructure to meet the next ensuing planning horizon of 20 years. We have the agenda or an outline of table of contents on your first page before tab 1 that kind of lets you know the different projects we're going through. And Scott, I, and Brad, we started out with Green Engineering in putting together the worksheet and priority list that's on behind tab 2. So if you'll go to tab 2 and turn your notebook perpendicular to you, the long page, and lay it out, you'll see what is now listed as 9 water and sewer projects that will be proposed to come out of the SL, that's Session 134 funds that was appropriated in 2023 that were approved by the General Assembly of North Carolina. And we refer to it all the time as SL. That's behind tab 2 in your notebook. Tab 2 of your notebook. It's a long sheet when you fold it out. And,
Tab 1.
excuse me, I'm sorry, did I say tab 2?
Yeah.
I apologize, Mr. Roundtree, tab 1.
All right.
Okay, and there's several pipeline projects and other miscellaneous projects that make that up for a total of $9,840,650. And we have gone through and we've made 2 applications for the county, which we'll get through in a minute, and I'll show those to you. The water projects will have to be done on one separate application. And in the wastewater project, the sewer, which the only sewer project that we got that you will be spending money out of the SL 134 is going to be the force main from the Merchant Mill Pond State Park. Did I get that right, Madam Chairman?
You got it right.
I just want to say State Park. So that'll be a separate application for $283,413. And if you recall, that project is about bringing the new campground that they're proposing to be building this fall that'll go into probably 2025, and we'll be pumping that back to the existing system that's in the Commerce Center. Okay, if you look down below that, Leo is broken this up in parts. The next bucket of money that adds up to 2.164 is listed as funded SRF, and SRF stands for State Revolving Fund. And there was 2.164.8 million, or $2,164,800 that we applied for in the fall round of 2023, and that is the grant money. The amount that you're going to borrow on top of that is $946,016. Now the loan part is over. The pipe work is a 20-year amortization at no interest, and the lead evaluation, which EPA requires all water systems to do, that's over 5 years of payback. So you would be looking at paying back 213 over 5 years, and Brad and Scott and William will be including that into the operational budget that y'all will be approving later on this spring. We got $383,000 under the water AIA. That's asset inventory and assessment. And out of that, something that the county's been needing for a long time is you got a lot of small water line, and there's low pressure issues in the county. So the hydraulic model is going to identify where these weak areas are in your distribution system, and they will lead to subsequent projects down the road. And some of these problems will be corrected with the SL 134 money that we've already got, but it's not going to fix all of them, because we had to put a budget together based on the needs that we knew at the time that we could apply these funds to. And then we're going to have an asset management plan. And why is an asset management plan important? With the amount of infrastructure that the county is invested in, you need to be able to evaluate the age of your infrastructure and the level of remaining life that's in that pipe, and pump stations and wells, etc. And if you have an asset management plan and you keep it current, it will give you about an additional 10 points on your applications, on subsequent applications that the county would file for additional funding down the road. The state recognizes water systems that do good planning. And so we were able to name that in the grant, and the state was favorable to that, and they awarded you these monies to do an asset management, a hydraulic model, and do the assessment of the condition and the inventory. In other words, we'll know how many valves, we'll know how many feet of pipe, we'll know how many feet of different pipe sizes, and we will be able to evaluate the condition of each one of those assets, and we will map them accordingly, and then we'll put together an improved GIS files that the county's GIS system will use to help Brad manage the system. And on top of that, we're also asking for some funds to do some staff training with GIS and with Brad's office, because you're going to have a very updated GIS system, and you want to be able to use it properly as a management tool. And this is something that the county manager has requested, and he's seen benefits of this in other areas that he's managed in water infrastructure. So we're real pleased to see that we were able to accomplish all of those in that grant for $383,000. Also, there's a rate study in there I failed to mention. Y'all not gonna have to pay for that, but because you're a distressed system, the state of North Carolina requires that if you get asset inventory money as a grant, you're required to do a rate study. And now that you've put new meters in, so you get your cash register right, to get those revenues coming in, you're spending money, you're borrowing money, then we want to be able to look at that and run a rate model so that management will be able to project and predict the revenue that you're going to need to manage your system and to be able to service debt in the future. And also to make you run an operational ratio, meaning that you're not spending more money than you're taking in. You know, it's kind of like that speedometer. When the sign says 55, you're running 55. And on an operating ratio, William is excellent, and he understands that, and he'll keep everything between the ditches and advise the manager and Brad on operational ratios. Okay, on the wastewater side of the AI, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do field survey. It'll be field grade, and it will be the accuracy level of finding these assets and valves, manholes. You would call it, is that sub-centimeter?
Yeah.
Sub-meter or sub? It's tighter than a meter.
Sub-centimeter.
So we get it right down there within a bird's nest. That's how close we'll get it. So when Brad's out there working on a line that got cut by a cable operator, and it's midnight and there's snow on the ground or frost or whatever, he will be able to have an instrument that will be procured out of this that will enable him to be able to find this asset under extreme weather conditions, and that will be invaluable. Okay, so we're doing all the wastewater, and we got 17,000. The original grant was 150, and we got 17 more that will go toward, most likely it'll go toward the asset inventory, and that, I mean the asset management plan. Of the 150,000, you're required to have a $15,000 match, and that's not too unusual. They didn't require that on the water, but they did require that on the wastewater. Moving on down, on the old existing .015 MGD plant, that was originally a 25,000 gallon a day plant. You got a grant of $1.5 million, and you're borrowing $717,000, and that's zero interest for 20 years. And the final thing that you got a grant for was $114,800 to do the lead assessment survey that EPA requires. So when you add the 2.164 million up with the 9.8, you're coming out with a grant amount of over $12,100,000 and some thousand dollars. I think that I saw that number somewhere, Leah, but I don't see it now. But anyway, you're getting this year, you're getting a little over $12 million in grant for water infrastructure. And that's excellent, excellent.
Rodney, would you mind if I interject?
Sure.
A little bit. On the screen for our audience at home, and for commissioners, when you get asked the question, what is the county going to do with that $10 million that the state has made available for us, that is our priority list. Number one is to enhance our water supply capacity. I think in one of the first reports you heard from Green Engineering and Mr. Tart, he shared the fact that we've got 3 water production wells and only one of them that's really performing as needed. And if we were to lose that one well, we'd have a very, very challenging situation. So we are programming for the possibility of 2 additional deep wells to really solidify our water production capabilities. Next is a water tank replacement for the tank that's currently in Gatesville that's been standing empty for a decade or more. And just corroding, and it's a 150,000 gallon tank. We're suggesting to go to 300,000. There's a line a 12-inch line to serve Gatesville to help with their fire suppression flow, and that'll go out
That's this line right here.
137
58 all the way down through town.
and reach all the way to where the Ashton Lewis Lumber Company is located. He's mentioned the smaller items for the SCADA for water and sewer. We've got some water plant upgrades, but more critically, down on Carter Road, there is a water line that was broken on the Trotman Creek in a prior storm. Both ends of the line are capped off. We've programmed some of these dollars to help hydraulically fix that loop. We have a similar situation in Gatesville at Bennett's Creek, right here by the duck through. We've
This
got
spot right in here where we cross the creek is.
we've got two dead ends that really present problems maintenance-wise when he's got to shut a valve off and make a repair and potentially shut down the entire town. When if we get that connection under the creek, we'll be able to prevent a lot of those headaches. There's also funding to replace the 6-inch water main that's on 158 that runs in front of the high school and the Merchants Commerce Center to basically tie off where the 12-inch stops just after Medical Center Road. And I would point out, I had a call earlier this week. The high school has the addition and renovations going on. And when our zoning and planning office went through its technical review, there was a question raised about whether or not a 6-inch line in front of the high school was really adequate for fire suppression. And we were able to say to them, we've got that programmed in the budget. That line will be replaced with a 12-inch line. So again, these lines and upgrades are necessary for any number of situations. And the state park, he had already mentioned, but I think it's just really important that you now have a list available. It's on the YouTube recording to demonstrate where that $9.8 million is being programmed.
Thank you, Scott. Another point too, right now the existing 12 comes from the water plant down 37 to Highway 158. Then it turns and it goes about 2,500 feet and it terminates. And what happened back 15 years ago, whenever that line was built, that line was ran as far as money would pay for. So we want to close that up. We made the blue line here and the blue line here is new line. That thinner blue line is existing pipe there and going back up to the water plant, excuse me. It's also important to note that this hydraulic model is going to help us determine where the water tank would be. We'd like to see the water tank put there at the Commerce Park for a couple reasons. You'll have your name on it there. You may have Commerce Park there for plugging the business park center. Excuse me, Commerce Center. Okay, and also there's going to be millions of dollars of assets built in this land area that you're planning. And fire suppression is going to be a big ticket to get the insurance, and that can be a point of contention when you're trying to attract businesses in, is having adequate fire protection. So we're going to look at that real strong, and if it's so that it places it there, then if the county elects to buy any property in that area there, we certainly would like to have that water tank somewhere on the knoll, on the highest point. So the higher the land is, the lower the cost of the water tank, because we have to pay for that feet of height. The price takes that way. Volume and height has an impact on it. So there's a lot of planning, and thankfully with the money, the revenue resources that are coming, it's going to open up many doors of opportunity for economic and commerce growth in the county, and something that y'all been needing for a long time. Okay, moving along, after those grant funds, we are also applying for 4.1 million for the Buckland School and the T.S. Cooper School. This is the Buckland School right here. And here is the new county wastewater treatment plant. And this yellow line is a force main that takes from the pump station on Honey Pot Road up to this wastewater treatment plant. So the Buckland School is the lesser of the two projects to get it into the wastewater treatment plant. The second one is the T.S. Cooper, which is a force main that leaves the Commerce Center and goes to Sunbury and then a few thousand feet down on 32 to T.S. Cooper School. And what we like about this plan, if it gets funded, that's going to provide a pathway for later planning of sewer in the Sunbury area. If that interest grows, then you're going to have a transmission line in to get some of that sewer there. So that's just good planning that we want to point out to you. Now, each one of these projects are going to be applied for independently. There's letters that we'll look at in a moment, but each one of these schools have their own wastewater treatment plants, and they're failing horribly all the time. They're continually getting written up and fined for these septic systems failing. So getting that on a central sewer system will be a good thing. And believe it or not, there was a study done way back in the early 2000s. It kind of pointed to the Sunbury area and other areas of bringing them together. Now that you're going to upgrade this other sewer plant, that's right over here, and you're getting the new plant online, you're going to have capacity to start that. And we'll move ahead with that. And then on top of that, we're going to be looking at trying to raise the money to do a study for the Gatesville area, for Gatesville sewer, because there's been some discussion about interest in putting wastewater in the town area of Gatesville. So we're applying for 4.1 million. When you add all that up together with your grants of 12 million and this right here, you're getting up there at 16 million just in capital projects. And the good news right now, we know that these two schools, they're going to point up on the application to be 100% eligible for grant. Now, whether the state decides to give it all in grant is contingent upon your competition with other communities that are going to be sending in grant requests and where your application scores for. Now, that's why these capital improvement plans, again, that's more points if we had that. And Scott is working toward that, and we'll have it in the future. But right now, based on our scoring, these two projects do score to 100%. So that's another infusion of 4 million if we're lucky and nobody knocks us out. And the way that works, you score as high as you can. You turn these applications in. The state evaluates it by 2 or 3 different separate teams, and they come together with a final score. And once that's done, they'll have a bucket of money. Let's say it's $40 billion for sewer, and they'll start funding these projects. And they'll fund them on the level of priority of where your points are. They'll start out with, say, 100 points, and then they'll go down, and they'll keep funding projects till the bucket's empty. So you just pray that yours point's good and the bucket isn't empty when they get to Gates County. So far, y'all gotten lucky some few times, and the bucket's stayed full enough to show y'all some love and favor here in Gates County.
Well, Rodney, if I could, I'd like to point out on the screen, we have copies of 2 letters written by Dr. Williams with the data reflecting the notice of violations for both the Buckland School and the T.S. Cooper School just in the last 18 months or so. Rodney's had a lot of conversation with Mr. Johnny Green about the trials and headaches that he goes through keeping those 2 wastewater systems operational. So this will be a gift to the school system and the Board of Education. We have discussed this briefly with Superintendent Williams and the board chair, Ms. Ryan. If these projects are funded, one of the components of this financing package is going to need to be an interlocal agreement between the Gates County Board of Commissioners and the Gates County Board of Education, stating such that they will convey those systems to the county, and that the county will operate them. So there are going to be steps along the way as these funds become available, but in the brief dialogue we had with the chair and superintendent and Dr. Riddick and myself, they seem very pleased that this infrastructure planning is going to bring them a significant benefit. The other thing I'd state, since Rodney's outlined 16 million and I don't know how many different projects, William Robertson over here is cringing. He hasn't seen this full list yet, but he's going to have to prepare a project ordinance and manage all of these grants. And if we didn't get him a notebook, we need to get him a notebook, and probably ought to keep one in his desk and in his car, but because at the present time, he's also managing two major projects for the schools. They've got the renovations at the high school campus. They've got the renovations at Gatesville Elementary. Both of those ordinances are under his purview, and they've got a couple more in the pipeline. And just to underscore what Mr. Tart talked about with respect to the asset inventory, I think the number I read was that Gates County has 309 miles of pipe in the ground. So when they're trying to calculate not just the length, but the diameter of those pipes and the condition, 300 miles of pipe is a lot.
It's probably more than that. And we'll quantify the miles of pipe, and we'll quantify the miles of roads that you got in your county. We believe that you got in excess of 400 miles of roads. So when we do the analyticals and the field survey, we will provide that information to you. Okay, moving along, on the next page following the priority list was a state list that they put out, and you'll notice it's the sheet following the priority list. It's the very next sheet. Item 68.1 and 68.2 is Gates County, and when you take the original funds was $1 million for Gates County and 9.14 for actually it was kind of earmarked for the town of Gatesville. And over $5 million of this is being truly spent for the town of Gatesville in all the fire line suppression and elevated storage that we're doing. So that's where that come from, that 9.8. Following behind that is the letters of intent for these grants for the AIA, and you'll see on the first page is the milestones of delivery that the county has to provide to meet the requirements to receive the $383 million. You got one for water and you got one for sewer. Okay, moving ahead, if there's no questions, if you got questions, just holler it out. Tab number 2. Okay, now we're getting into the SL 134, all these projects that we talked about up here on this map, and what was on the priority list, projects 1 through 8 primarily, are water projects that will add up to 9.57237 million will be water. Okay, and then if you'll turn to page 4 of that application, is 1 of 6. Page 4. Okay, the very top project is the 2 500-gallon-a-minute wells that we project to be built somewhere over in your area, just west of Highway 13. On the map, is there a township? I'm trying to think. Is there a township named Ure?
No, it's
Anyway,
called
the map
Hall.
is identified
Hall
as Ewing.
Township.
Two wells over there. Each one of these projects is broken down on the construction, and then below that is all the technical cost that is associated with that. And then behind that is the application sign sheet. Going to the next one under tab 3, the only filing we're doing under the SL 134 money, that's the money that just got appropriated, that 9.8. $283,000 is projected for the force main that's going from the state merchants pond, state park, camping area is $283,000, and that's under a separate application. And so when you add them two together, the 283 plus the 9.5 million, that comes up to your $9,840,650. Okay, following that under tab 4 is a resolution. And all the money that y'all received earlier that you applied for last fall, y'all passed a resolution. And we have a copy of that. It says resolution by the governing body, the applicant. And in this case, you want to point out something? In this case, this application is filing for the T.S. Cooper and the Buckland Elementary Schools. That's that $4,100,000 that we're applying for state SRF money. Next, on the 17th, y'all will be approving and authorizing the county manager to sign that. Under tab 5 is the funding application for the Buckland School. And if you look on the front page, it says funded amount requested is $1,305,333. We're asking for all that project to be funded by the state. And as I said a while ago, it's all grant eligible, 100%, but we won't know until a decision is made on that under review. Okay? And then following that one is the second application, which will be for the T.S. Cooper. I just got to get to it. All right. It's in there as the T.S. Cooper application. It's behind the Buckland application, and it's 2.8 million. Now, we have those on the priority sheet. These are identified. I'm just letting you know the application. When y'all meet on the 17th, you're going to pass a resolution, and you're going to approve the county manager to execute these two funding applications. And you don't do a final commitment on this until you know what your money is. Once you know what your money is, then you can do your final sign off, and the board can take action on that to utilize those funds. Let's proceed to tab 6. And tab 6 is the letters that the Board of Education wrote Dr. Riddick, chairman of the board, about the conditions and the issues for Buckland School. And then behind that, there's a letter addressing the wastewater issues at the T.S. Cooper School. And these two letters right here are very, very important as far as pointing up on the application for these funds. Following that, under tab 7 is the next important thing that Manager Sauer referenced a while ago. The state wants to see that there is a draft interlocal agreement that addresses the Board of Education, which in this case is the Gates County Public School System, and the Gates County proper entered into an agreement where Gates County proper will construct this infrastructure and take it over, and they will treat and manage the waste, and the public school system will send y'all a love offering every month for that service. It's called revenue, a check. Okay, so that's a copy of what you're going to, I think there's a caveat in this. You're endorsing this contingent upon the funding. Funding's made available. If you don't get funded, then you won't enter into this agreement at this time. If there's two of those in there, there's one for each school. Let's proceed on to tab 8. I'm sorry.
I got something for Mr. Sauer. When you look at these signature pages, the board chair is Sally Ryan.
There is a signature page on mine. Did yours get left out?
I've got it, but it has Ray Felton as the chair, and he's not the chair anymore.
Okay, well,
That's why I said something, Mr.
your
Sauer.
esteemed county manager will catch that. In case you're on vacation, I guarantee you'll catch that.
Ray Felton is the wrong name.
Ray Felton, yeah.
Okay. So the current chairman is,
Miss Sally Ryan.
okay. Thank you for catching that, Madam Chair.
Anything I sign, I try to read it.
Ma'am.
Anything I sign, I try to read it.
All right, under tab 8, we're going to the capital improvement plan. You get 2 points for this on your application. And these capital improvement plans have to be turned in with a funding application. And it tells you what the water system and the county board is planning as far as the 10-year planning horizon. This is a 10-year CIP, capital improvement plan. What's highlighted in blue is those projects we just got through talking about that'll be funded through the SL 134 projects.
Okay.
That's the grant money that you got. The ones highlighted in yellow are the 2 schools that we're applying for, that you'll be approving for the applications to be executed. And the state likes to have it highlighted this way, so when they get to your application, they can readily look at this CIP and focus in on the funds that they're going to be considering. Any questions? If not, I'm going to move on to tab 9. Your very capable clerk, Ms. Chestnut, is certified on your current rates, and they have to go into the application. Under page tab 10 is your own personal copy of the map that we have on the wall up here that you can refer back to on these various projects. And we will later on provide a map once we know where the well sightings will be for those wells. We will bring in a groundwater specialist to help us with that, and we're looking at a little over $2 million for additional water supply. You have one well up in the water plant area. If that well goes down, you can't meet your daily supply, so we need additional capacity to back that up. Okay, going to tab 11 is the Gates County Merchants Commerce Center Concept Plan Phase 1. And Phase 1 is the dotted area that you see, the red line boundary. And those 3 gray pictures, the one out on 158, is the State Employees Credit Union. The second one is the Gates House, and the third one is the library. And under our cost estimate, we're proposing to repave those streets to serve those two, the library and the credit union from the back. And also, this project proposes to put in curb and gutter and storm drainage so that these properties will have great roadside appeal. Right now, you've got deep ditches with cattails and everything growing up in it. When y'all determine the time and get the funding to build this, you will have a very nice center. And the building in the far back, do you have a picture of that?
I'll put it back.
On your PowerPoint?
There you go. What's up? I don't think that'll work. It's right above the egg.
Well, it works on here, but it don't work. I can't make it work. Can you see this area right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is the new proposed site area for the, I think the
Community center.
Community center. And what we're proposing right now,
possibly right in this area right here. If you can see that area, it's possibly a tank site. But that, the county can decide on that. But the China restaurant's right here. It could go in the spot in here somewhere. But that's where we kind of proposing the water tank to be. The Gates water tank would be there. Once we model that. Is there any questions about that site? This is all planning, so nothing's etched in stone, but it's a concept that the county has been working on for some time. And then following behind that, under tab 12, we did a cost takeoff for the roadway construction, for the water system improvements, and for the gravity sewer. And all of that together came out to 2.93 million, and with contingencies and technical costs and legal and everything, it's about 3.7 million for phase 1. And I assume that the board is going to be looking at seeking other funds to make.
Most likely federal, yeah.
Sir?
Most likely federal.
Okay. So I'll stop right there and then I'll field any questions that you got. I apologize for not standing up, but I had some cancer surgery on my leg, and my wife told me to stay off that leg. That she wanted me to continue to work and bring in a payroll, so I told her I'd try to. Any questions?
Well,
That's a whole lot to take in right there, I tell you.
Certainly
I just
is.
want to get some clarification, just quick. Okay, Mr.
Sure.
Tarr. You said we will get possibly 2 additional points for our CIP, 10 additional points for our, for the management assessment, the.
Asset management plan.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
we gotta develop that. That's what this $383,000 we got in the water AIA, it's gonna pay for y'all to have that. You don't have to pay for it out of pocket. You want to say something?
Yes, I was going to, the importance of having these projects, especially the 2 schools on the CIP, is that's the first thing they look at. If you're not planning to do that work, they're not going to fund it. Mm-hmm. So that's the reason those are on there, and previously these other projects are on there.
This CIP will be attached to the funding application for each one of these schools. And they're gonna want, Ms. Chestnut, the clerk, to do an excerpt of the minutes showing who made the motion, who seconded it, and did it pass. And that'll couple with that. And all that, what that does, it tells the funding agency that Gates County's serious about what they're talking about planning. There's a lot of people that can provide talk, but when you take action, that makes a difference.
And we didn't talk about this earlier, but Rodney and I have discussed it. They're at least, out of this SO 134 money, there's probably 4, maybe 5 of those projects that we're contemplating bidding as one single project out to, to one general contractor to look for economies of scale and quantities of material. When they go to bid a job, if they're bidding 1,000 feet versus 15,000 feet, you're going to get, more bang for your buck on the larger scope project. So we will kind of bundle those together. The utility guys won't be building the wells. I mean, we'll separate them according to the contractor's area of expertise.
You can buy 15,000 foot of pipe cheaper than you can 1,000.
That's right.
In essence.
And if you're fortunate enough that this comes in, these projects come in under, let's just say under the $9.84 million, still your money. You can turn right around with whatever's left
Make another application.
and make another application for additional work. And that's another benefit of maybe bidding a lot of that together.
Okay.
Just want to point that out.
So be sure and thank your senators and your House of Representative people that approved this appropriation. That was a tall leap,
It was.
especially to see counties that are distressed like Gates be recognized and what that'll do as part of your economic engine to make things happen at the Commons Park.
I have a couple more slides,
That's fine.
but I've backed up and put the slide that they've labeled Phase 1, and it's Phase 1 for the roads, the curb and gutter, and the water and sewer utility lines to serve that area, basically back behind the library and the credit union. And the figures that they put together for us are the number, it's $3.8 million that we will be pushing toward our federal legislators. At your last meeting, when the board adopted its legislative priorities, the figure we had for the roads and the water and sewer was actually around $4.5 million, and I was really, really pleased that when they put a pencil to it, it came in at 3.8. Again, none of this is a commitment. These are requests that the county will need to make to our federal legislators.
Yeah.
I want to go back to where this is the concept. This is the conceptual drawing that is up for discussion, is under review, and this is the drawing that was first shown to me when I came in February of 2023. Last week, maybe 10 days ago, as I continue my archaeological dig into the county files, remember, I'm the 14th manager in 20 years, and trying to navigate some of this stuff is a little complicated. But Lisa Cherry, the planning director, mentioned to me that there was another concept plan that was never shared with the governing body back when Summit Engineering was doing the work. And she found the electronic version of that. And the unique feature I wanted to make sure to point out is on the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see there was some, at least conceptual schematic suggestion by Summit that there be some ball fields and recreational type facilities. Again, the bottom, did I say left hand? It's the bottom right handed. I'll tell you.
Does anybody see it?
Well, what that triggered for me was a dialogue that I've had with the superintendent, Dr. Williams. He has been putting together very aggressively some capital grant funding applications and has a vision of putting in a Olympic size running track and some other auxiliary facilities around it. And apparently he had taken it so far to propose to put it behind the existing high school. So if to orient, you can see at 9 or 10 o'clock where the credit union is and the Chinese restaurant, and directly across the street, of course, from the Chinese restaurant is the existing football field. You got the baseball field. Right up at the top is the high school complex. The part in the orange is the addition they're preparing to build out. But in that area, all of that land that looks pretty swampy to me.
It is swampy.
They had at least sketched out the concept of attempting to put in a track. Well, during the budget planning meeting that Dr. Riddick scheduled with the board chair from education, Ms. Ryan, and the superintendent and the two finance officers, I wanted to bring this up, and I had shared this with Dr. Riddick, and she had said, well, you know, that land doesn't look very suitable for a complex, because you can tell there must be 400 parking spaces in there. Well, she asked Lisa to see if she could overlay that schematic on the Merchants Commerce Center. So we took and used the same scale on our drawing and the schematic from the Board of Education's engineers, and there is room if the board wanted to entertain some type of cooperative arrangement where, in lieu of buying a tract of land behind the high school, if some of those athletic facilities could be placed on the Merchants Commerce Center tract, there might be some positive energy there. Dr. Williams, when he saw this, was very quick to, because he's been really advocating for the track, he was very quick to say that could be the place to host the Special Olympics competition each year. Dr. Riddick, as we know, has been talking about senior games and activities like that through the Council of Governments, our Albemarle Commission. Again, this is the first public presentation, and again, I know it's probably a bit of a surprise to know there was another concept out there a couple of years ago with an athletic component, but if there were to be some interest, it seemed that both the school board chair and the superintendent were willing to carry it forward for discussion with the Board of Education.
I want to say that I think that's a very interesting and great concept. And the reason why I say is this: not only could it be used for Special Olympics, but annually or biannually it could be used as an annual track meet. It can also be utilized by our constituents as a place for health and wellness where they can walk the track. So many things can be done, and we're like killing two birds with one stone. You know, we're helping the school system out and we're helping our citizens out. And also, a third aspect, gaining revenue from Special Olympics, from track meets, and most of all, you know, enhancing individual health. But I think it's something to consider greatly.
Well, Mr. Tart and Mr. Green arrived a little bit early today so that we could get our thoughts together for the presentation. I happened to share this with them, and I can't remember which one of you made the comment to remind me that this is very similar to what happened at Campbell University when they ended up expanding their athletic programs and initiated a football program. They ended up with athletics on one side of the highway, and it's a 4-lane divided highway, and the campus on the other, and they worked with DOT to have a pedestrian tunnel put under US 421 in Bowie's Creek so that you could have safe pedestrian traffic between the two areas and not have to worry about students or parents or grandparents trying to navigate their way across the highway or having to tie up the sheriff's office with crossing control. So there are models out there that could be considered, and again, this is all conceptual. It would really take some discussion and thought process for the board, but this just evolved in planning for the meeting this week.
I would like to say that with that conception, when you showed it to me, I think it was a week ago, I was thinking about the current community center that we have, that we said we're not going to put that kind of money into trying to repair that building because there's so much damage to it. We're going to try to stabilize the roof because it's still leaking when it rains. But the future is that we build another facility across the street in that park, and it's going to be a community center / senior center. We're just about the only county that does not have a senior center or dedicated space for our seniors. And one of the things that I continue to hear ever since I've been a commissioner 3 years is that there is not a dedicated space for the seniors. They have to go to Franklin, Hertford, wherever to walk, to exercise, because there's not a dedicated space. So that's one of the things. And we're an aging county. We're not getting any younger. And we need to well, we're not. And only way is to die. But anyway, when I saw that, with the center being conceptualized as far as a community center, senior center, that track over there would be an extension of wellness as far as walking, senior games in the middle, senior games that they host in the county, and Special Olympics or whatever. It's a conception, but I think it's much better than trying to buy land behind the high school that's not appropriate and will costly when we have land, county land, right across the street. And that's the concept that I saw last week, and we've been talking about it. And the superintendent and the board chair saw it for the first time Monday.
And the next slide simply shows the full picture. I had zoomed in earlier, but that would be basically the look if the athletic track were to be positioned closer to the front end of the Commerce Center.
Well, it's certainly a much better location than what they were proposing behind the school, because it was swampy. And as Gates County, we have a lot of people. We need to emphasize a positive lifestyle and exercise, because we have a lot of diabetes and a variety of things that activities would help, obesity. So certainly, I think we would, I don't think anybody would argue against that point.
Well, and the other thing I wanted to highlight this afternoon that came out of the discussion with the superintendent and the board chair is that we have reached the 25-year mark in the grant agreement for the Parks and Rec Trust Fund when the county and the school board worked to build and expand several times the community center. And under the memorandum of agreement that was approved several years back, the programming, supervision, staffing of the community center is planned and programmed to shift to the Gates County oversight December 31st. Well, as we were taking first steps toward budget discussions, both Mr. Robertson and Mr. Harrell from the Board of Education said, trying to make a shift like that in the middle of a fiscal year creates an accounting nightmare for them. So they floated the notion about possibly asking both boards if they would consider accelerating the timeline to July 1 with the new fiscal year versus what would be January 1. The way the system works currently, the county appropriates roughly $290,000 a year or so to the school system to run that center. So that $290,000 would not be appropriated to the schools. It would be put in a line item for the Gates County Recreation Department. And I had mentioned to Dr. Williams that we had this meeting and asked if he felt it would be appropriate to bring this to you all. And he said most certainly, because they're having a meeting, I believe it's tomorrow. And they've already had some discussions with their board and finance officer about the fact that the transition for the programming might be more workable for both parties if it occurred on the changeover of a new fiscal year. So,
Yeah, I do believe it would be a budget nightmare if we switched.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
It's
I believe it would be a terrible switch to have it a couple months later than do it at our new fiscal year. I mean, I think it would be the wisest decision to make to do that on both parts.
Oh, I agree. I wouldn't want to have to switch it in the middle of the year. And it's a done deal. It's going to come back to us. Just move up the timeline.
well, again, our goal today was to make sure the board is prepared with the information, the details, the experts who can answer the questions about these projects, so that when your agenda goes out next week, hopefully goes out on Friday, for your meeting on Wednesday, you'll be prepared to consider it for potential action as considering all these grant applications.
I do have a question. The original concept plan that was never submitted, when was that formed? Do you know? Do you have any records?
Well, it was back during the Wilson administration.
Not quite that far back.
Timothy Wilson.
I was thinking the President Wilson.
No, it was, I don't know how long the engagement was with Summit Engineering, or what year or month y'all started that engagement.
I think it was around 2010,
But-
if I had to put some money on it.
But Lisa indicated that the concept with those fields was something that my predecessor had reviewed from Summit Engineering, and just for whatever reason, it didn't make it to the board's agenda for consideration. I don't know if there were other options, but as Lisa and I were working on several things, she says, well, you know, there was one other alternative, and she says, I think I've got a copy of it still, so she provided the digital image for that. So again, it's good food for thought. There's some synergy there, I think, with the school system, so.
This could turn into a county park as school athletic facility. You know, a lot of county schools now are doing that. They're bridging in recreational, and kind of bridging into the campuses with schools. And you're utilizing you get more bang for your dollar.
I like it. I like this. School partnership. You're better as one. You can get more done. Different funding coming from different areas. We can get funding, the school system can get the funding, you bring it all together and you can develop a whole lot bigger pot of money to do, serves our students, which deserves every bit of money we can get for them. Our taxpayers, if they won't come out and run around the track, walk around the track, wheel around the track. Health, I mean, it just completely makes sense.
It'll tie together, because when you're looking at grant funding, one of the key words, the buzzword, is wellness. If you can tie it to health and wellness, you stand a better chance of point schedule when you're writing grants. And with the combination of the community centers / senior centers, which we do not have, and I've been pushing that all over the state when I talk to legislators, and they're surprised we don't. Just like they were surprised we didn't have water back at the lumber mill. They were surprised, and they're surprised when we say we don't have a senior center or a dedicated space for seniors, and we don't. So if you tie that with wellness and with the aging population, which we are, just will admit it, and with the schools, with the needing a track, where they're cross-country and everything, and looking at the senior games that's growing, Olympic games could grow. The funding model would be a partnership, and they want to see partnerships and shared governance. That's what they want. If you tie it to wellness and health with the youth, because it's been research done that when the senior population engage with the younger or youth, they do a lot better, and vice versa. And so that's a model that I was looking at when that was shared with me. And I thank y'all for coming, and this is very helpful to take it apart as y'all work on funding, and we work on funding to make sure that we get this in front of the legislators, just like we did, we've been doing. But to break it down like this, it's much easier to explain it with pictures. I love pictures, to give them pictures, give them just like that, and say this is the concept we have, but we need the funding to have it. And not only that we already have a good start in Gates County with the 10 million, 9 million, whatever you want to call it, 12 million, really.
Well, and if I could just add, as we close out the regular business today, and we've advertised that we're taking a bus trip out to the new wastewater treatment plant. I think for anybody that would like to attend and ride the bus, we've got a bus that could take any of y'all with us. Green Engineering has agreed to stay with us this evening as long as we want to stay, but we won't go past 7. But really and truly, one of the ways to best operate this wastewater treatment plant, as I understand it, is to get more affluent into the pipeline, and that's where the T.S. Cooper and the Buckland schools come into the picture. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Mr. Johnny Green, school maintenance. He and Brad have a great working relationship. Mr. Johnny Green has answered a billion questions from Mr. Tart in putting together these grant applications. And of course, Mr. Green does all he can to keep that roof dry. He had the roofer up there again doing some more patching. So it really is a good partnership, and they have freely shared information with us so that we can try to make some good things happen.
What came to mind, I was wondering how much money they actually spent on those sewer systems a year at the high school. The money, long-term, that it
Yeah, we should ask.
would
I
save.
don't know.
I bet you they spent a pretty penny on it.
Well, if this works, they'll be a paying customer for us.
Yes.
They'll still be spending.
Oh, exactly, but it'd be, it all goes right.
Again, I want to thank Green Engineering for coming by and just helping us understand, and with all the commissioners. And let me say that Commissioner Truman has the book. We made sure she had the book. She couldn't come today, but we delivered the book to her, and all the material that she doesn't have, we're going to make sure. She's probably watching. She said she's going to try to watch. But we want to make sure that the commissioners understand what must happen now that we have the money, have the grant, and the plans that we have to, and all the paperwork. And William, we hear you. You haven't said a word, but we hear you, and all the ordinances, and being a little project manager. And we know that as we grow, as we continue to move from phase to phase and get more grant money to help with the infrastructure in this county, it's going to be more and more ordinances, more and more work. So we hear you as the board, and we'll be talking to Mr. Sauer about hearing you and see what we can do. One thing we do not want to do, and I'll be remiss if I don't say this, we should never go back to not keeping paperwork where we can find it. We should never go back to not submitting paperwork on time and accurately. That holds us up. It kicks us out of the grant process. When we do that, we miss out on grants when we cannot provide the documentation that we need to justify the grant. And I'm thankful to the staff, led by William and Mr. Sauer and others, for making sure, and Joe Letha, for making sure that things are, in line. And I'm thankful for Green Engineering for taking care of most of the grant writing and helping us find those grants and then say, this is the one you need to go after, or this is the one, because it keeps us from being scattered all over everywhere, and we can use our time effectively and efficiently. And I'm thankful. I'm sure, this is just I can be. I've watched this staff hunt down paperwork. We couldn't find it, then we finally found it at the 9th hour to try to get it in, try to get it updated. And we don't want to go back to that. So whatever board members we have to do to make sure that does not happen.
Digitize.
And it's too much paper. Scott Pierce, he's our IT director now. We hired an IT director. There's a reason we hired certain positions. We had a reason, and that's one of them, because when you're doing grants, you have to be on time, you have to be accurate, and you have to keep records for the next generation. That makes sense? Now we're going to take a weather permitting. Is the weather permitting, Charles? The board will visit the 2 wastewater treatment plants. I'm going to ask for, because we're going to adjourn the meeting so we can travel to the wastewater plant, so that the commissioners, y'all have seen it, but the commissioners have not. I have been out there with Lacey. Hope she's in somewhere. Somebody got her tied up. But anyway, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
It's been properly motioned and second that we adjourn. We are adjourned.